Hey guys, it's Chandler Vincent with weldermade.com. Welcome back for the month of July. Let's get started. Let's weld some steel.
Hey guys, just check that bottom right hand corner of the blueprint. Make sure that the part number matches what we've got here on the screen. We'll get started. Let's identify the parts in the blueprint. Go to the top right hand corner of the blueprint and we'll start with part number 1, which is our base plate. Alright, part number 2 has a 30-degree bevel on one side and a straight edge on the other. Part number 3 has the Welder Made logo etched in one side of it. Part number 4 is that L-shaped bracket that's going to go on the back side of the project. Part number 5 is the other side of the bevel joint. Just got that radiused corner on the top side of that piece. You should have a total of 5 pieces in this project. If everything's matching up, let's get started. So there's not much to clean on these steel parts. They're really clean. What I'm doing is putting a little bit of a root face on my bevel, because I'm going to perform a open root weld on this bevel. Do whatever you want to do with those bevels, whatever you want to practice, whatever you need practice on. Make sure you push yourself and try something hard. I'm removing the mill scale from any area that I know is going to have a weld on it. Sorry, we normally have pickled and oiled plates, mill scale free for you guys, but with today's market and the steel market, we're having really hard time finding P&O out here in Utah, and the price is outrageous, and we're trying to keep that price at the same rate we have for you guys. So this is an effort just to keep you guys from paying more. The material is still really high quality material. You just got to make sure you get rid of that mill scale, especially if you're welding these projects with short circuit MIG. If you're welding these projects with SMAW, also known as stick welding, or FCAW, flux core arc welding, it's not as crucial. But if you're doing short arc MIG on these projects, definitely get rid of that mill scale. Okay, I'm going to use part 4 here just to make sure those are nice and straight. Put a little bit of a gap in them. I've got about a 30-second gap there in between those bevel plates. Like I said, do whatever you guys need to do to practice. Now that those are tacked together, I'm going to mark the back side of those beveled pieces. We are 2 3/4 from the top, and since this part's so square with the laser and everything, I just tack it on there. It sits really square, nice and flat. You might see that the width of your parts 2 and 5 might vary depending on what you guys do for your root opening. Just throw all the slack out that one end off the base plate. Just make sure that corner joint of parts 3 and 2 line up nice and straight. Okay, now that that's all tacked together, we're just going to put this assembly on the base plate. As you can see in that overhead view, we're 1 inch away from the 2 edges. I marked this, then removed the mill scale so I knew where to grind. Set my sliding T-square to 1 inch. Butt my soapstone right up against it and give it a nice little mark. Okay, everything's tacked up. We're ready to weld. So I'm going to do the vertical joints first. I'm going to do the vertical butt joint in the outside corner. And I'm going to tie them in with this back plate number 4 and then weld all around the base plate. Let's get started. So I'm doing everything in the uphill progression. I'm doing a nice full pan root, CV MIG here. And then I'm going to do the root pass in my outside corner joint as well. I've got about 150 to 160 inches a minute on my wire feed speed, and just make sure the voltage matches for what you're doing. I'm using a very high crisp inductance on these settings, just kind of push through that open root. You're welcome to do whatever suits you. This is a good time to learn your strategies and your way of doing things. I like to have a nice open root opening and just kind of carry that weld nugget right up the root face there and put a nice full pen joint in there. Okay, now I'm capping, doing a nice kind of a triangle weave pattern. Got a nice full pen joint on that back side. That outside corner joint's a pretty hard weld. Push yourself, make yourself learn how to do it in the vertical position. It's a pretty cold setting, around 160 inches a minute on my wire feed speed with an 035 wire. Kind of doing a circular pattern, stepping up really high, getting out of my weld pull and letting it solidify, and then dropping back down and just stacking dimes all the way up that outside corner joint. It's really intimidating, but push yourself, make yourself do it uphill. Now that those are welded, I switched my machine over to Pulse and just laying in a nice 1/4 inch fillet weld around part number 4. Wrapping that corner. Went the overhead position of the bottom side of part number 4. Just focus on wrapping these corners, keeping a nice consistent 1/4 inch bead around that base plate, keeping a nice consistent weld size. Give it a nice good wire wheel clean, and that wraps up the structural steel project for the month of July. I like the way it turned out. Thank you guys for being with us for another month. Thanks for being part of the Welder Made family. We'll see you next month.